Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this third day of November 2022. I know we have a World Series going on in Philadelphia and Philadelphia Houston. And then you have Philadelphia Houston playing on Thursday night football. What is the chances of something like that happening? Slim and none on the same night like that. So you're going to have a split fan base. And that just popped in my head. That's what I've been saying. Here it is, the 3rd of November. We are less than a month away from Thanksgiving, and baseball is still going on. And it's competing with football. And the Eagles, they have a 7-0 team, guys. They have a 7-0 team, and your fan base is split. Now, a lot of you are going to do like I do. If you're in Philadelphia, you're going to, one's on a commercial. But the thing about it is that Houston game, well, it's probably on local TV. That's a good question, and that's something I need to find out. Will these prime games in the local markets be on TV? That's a $64,000 question. But tonight you have a split audience there. Somebody's going to lose some ratings. And that's what I keep saying. It's hard to compete with the NFL, although this World Series is great, I tell you. Later on, I'm going to talk about Kyrie Irving a little bit with that Michigan State fight. There has been this stuff has been in the news all week, but it's Thursday. I've got everything I needed to talk about in level of importance and whatnot. And then I'm going to cover a few stories that's kind of lingered on for the past few weeks. You ain't even get a radio broadcast unless you're local in Philadelphia. Oh, okay. Yeah. And now, Pickles, there's rumors that Jeff Bezos may buy the Washington Commanders. I'm just not really a fan of the whole situation, that the way things have played out with this Amazon thing, with it streaming these Thursday night games. Just not my cup of tea in the times we're in right now. But anywho, so I'm going to talk about Calvin Ridley, Michigan State fight, the XFL coming back. I'm not sure if that's going to work out. But first, about this World Series, I've been reading that the ratings in this World Series are really high. It's like 11-5, 11-6 for the World Series. That's good. But tell you how good unprofessional football, college football, the Alabama-Tennessee game got 11-1. So college football regular season is right there with the World Series. Right there with the World Series. And that's like, that being said, this is one of the best World Series I've seen in 15 years. I haven't watched that many World Series in the past 15 years. But I will say this. It's baseball has made some adjustments. Next year, they're eliminating shifting. They're going to this pitch clock thing. And there has to be some type of record here with the World Series. And it may very well not be a record, but it seems that way, that these pitchers are on both teams are throwing 97, 98, 100 mile per hour fastballs. And the pitching, even though you have big leads, you really just have bad innings. If you look at game one, for instance, I did not think I was going to be interested, but Philly sports guy, I know him through the Northeast streaming folks, and I've got quite a few. One lady particularly, she wore a Houston Astros jersey at work the other day. She's really excited. She's originally from Houston area. So I got Jamie Pags, the Philadelphia guy. Then I got my friend Scarlett. She's a big Houston Astros fan from the Houston area. And you've got that storyline with Mattress Mac out of Houston that has got a $75 million bet on a potential payoff if Houston wins the next two games. I would like to see Houston win just for that particular reason, that he's going to share that money with some of his customers, giving refunds and everything. And he's going to find a way to share it, and he will, because the guy's very high profile now. He gets talked about every year. He almost got into a fight in Philadelphia a couple of days ago. I didn't hear about it. So it would be interesting to see him win for that particular reason. Wrong, to see the aftermath of what Mattress Mac's going to do. That's like a mini lottery, even though the Powerball, Pickles, is like over $1 billion the last time I checked. But so Houston loses, and I came on here yesterday, and I said, well, I don't know if Houston really wants this as bad as Philly. You know, they lose 7-0. The game gets rained out, first of all. Then it goes to Tuesday. You go back to Philadelphia on Tuesday. You lose 7-0. I turned that one off quick. I thought that Philly had that one. Good shutout baseball by the Philadelphia pitching. And then the very next day, last night, you get 4 pitchers. You get 4 pitchers that can combine for a no-hitter? Are you kidding me? Okay, this is what it says here. I'm going to screenshot this. Well, that is a wrong screenshot. I could have swore. Okay, here we go. This is what I got. The Astros become, what is this thing? The Astros become the second team in the history to spin a no-hitter as 4 pitchers frustrated the Phillies 5-0 on a Wednesday night game at Citizen Bank Park. I mean, and it was a multi-pitcher no-hitter. And you know what's really ironic about the whole thing? The last time I seen a multi-pitcher no-hitter was in a regular season, and it was the Astros, ironically, about 12, 14 years ago against the Yankees. And I watched it because I wanted to see the Yankees lose. So you throw your big punch, I throw my big punch. This kind of reminds me where you can't really get a feel for who got the momentum is for who has this momentum would be that 2000, the best World Series I've ever seen was 2001 Arizona Yankees Game 7. You think Arizona's got it, then the Yankees just destroyed this closer they got. I think his name was Him Young Kim or something like that. This guy he just could not get past the 8th inning, you know. But that went 7 games, went down to the bottom of the night, Game 7, and I went to bed because Rivera came in. I went to bed. I was so frustrated. The Yankees had won 3 World Series at the time, and then everybody's saying, well, and the media is all over the Yankees because it was 9/11 just happened and all that nonsense. And and that was another November World Series. So this is turning out to be a classic, man. And I'm not even a baseball guy, but I'm telling you, this is the Astros are the first team. Christian Javier also started Houston's combined no-hitter on June 25th against the Yankees. So it's an interesting to say the least. And now just popped up on my screen, Kyrie's been suspended by the Brooklyn Nugget. You know what? I'm going to get to that in a minute. Get that Kyrie story in a minute. But first, since it's 7 o'clock hour, I'm going to hit the wrong one. Boy, I hate these pop-ups, man. Since it's a 7 o'clock hour, I'm going to get to this Houston game. I just had to do a quick little World Series thing here. So the Texans, the other Houston thing, right? So the Texans, they're playing tonight against the 7-0 Eagles. Playing against the 13.5-point underdogs. Now, I didn't get a chance to talk about this the other day, but this Houston team that played Sunday, 2 observations for Houston's standpoint. Number one, Davis Mills looks like he's digressed. And, man, you know, this time last year, this guy's getting better every week. He almost beats Tennessee in the number 1 seed last game of the season against the Titans. And Ryan Tannehill has to pull off a last-minute comeback. And it looks like they may have their guy, this 3rd-round pick, Stanford, the school that Andrew Luck went to. And of course, John Elway looks like they may have stole their guy. And then they pulled off the trade in the offseason. They trade Deshaun Watson in the offseason. And it looks like Lovie Smith and this team, they're on their way, right? But then I watched that game Sunday, and Davis Mills is 32nd in QBR in NFL. That is dead last. And he went 17-29, 152 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a 69 rating, and a 7 QBR. Yeah, 7. Single digit 7. At home against the defense. Against Malik Willis, who had a 4 QBR. But it was one of the worst scouted preparation games that I've ever seen by a pro team. And, Lovie Smith, he's a nice guy. He got it to the Super Bowl back in 2006 and 2007, if you don't recall, with the Chicago Bears, with the guy named Rex Grossman, almost beat the Colts there, but they lose, right? But I'm telling you, man, it looked like he's starting to look like, and by the way, Lovie Smith was the former University of Illinois coach. He was awful. He wasn't bad. He wasn't just somewhat mediocre. He was awful at the University of Illinois and fired and whatnot. Now, mind you, he was the defensive coordinator for David Culley here. Culley was fired last year because he did not want to make staff changes. So that's what I was talking about the other day about guy's been around the league a long time, a lot of relationships built. He's in the 60s. And same thing, I thought that may be an issue with Dan Campbell, the coach up in Detroit, but they just recently fired their defensive back coach. But I'm telling you, man, it's either he's digressed and they don't feel like they trust David Mills, or the game has passed Lovie Smith by, or both, or both. So I think it's probably both. As much as I like Lovie Smith as a person, seems like a good dude, it just, I noted it looked like Jeff Fisher. And Jeff Fisher, once he coached at the Rams and went to a big market where he couldn't just kind of massage the media and the home, because here in Nashville we're really friendly and whatnot. But once he got in that big market where people wasn't hearing it, you had ex-players like Eric Dickerson saying, "Man, this looks like a high school offense, man. This looks like a high," and that it was the one of the most poorest scheme games. I don't want to use the word coached. I don't know about penalties, but game plans that I've ever seen. Tennessee is 24th to 22nd in run defense. The 27th, excuse me. They're pass defense. They're 1 or 2 in run defense. Their run defense is really, they had one really bad game, and that was against the Giants in opening week. They seem not to start well. But so they're going against a rookie quarterback who is raw. I mean, man, Malik Willis is super raw. I don't think Willis is going to make it. Now, maybe he makes a big jump from this year to next year, but my guess is John Robertson's seen enough of him in practice thinking, we really hope that Tannehill gets better, because this guy is super raw. He kind of reminds me of Hurts, but it seems like Hurts was a little bit farther along than he was at this point. It's still early, but the guy I think he completed like 17 yards. I was crazy enough to take him on a fantasy team. Didn't do me nothing. But again, Mills is 32nd QBR coming in this game. And the game plan, the running on first down, it looked like the worst scheme game I've seen all season. And they didn't just spread Tennessee out and throw the ball up and down the field. I have no idea why they didn't do that. I think because they just don't believe in Davis Mills that much. And it just looked like the perfect game plan for Tennessee to win. Because they kept trying to establish the run a game, and like Tennessee's like, no. And by the way, Lovie Smith is a defensive-minded head coach. Now, mind you, it's his second year there. They're in year 2 of a rebuild. Technically, I guess you could say year 1 because they had Deshaun Watson on contract last year, but he didn't play, right? So you're a defensive-minded head coach, and your team is 32nd elite in run defense. That's the first thing a defensive-minded head coach wants to do, Pickles. He wants to stop the run. If you can't stop the run, you can't do anything in this league just about. If you can't stop the run consistently or even get close, you are probably drafted number 1 overall. And they're pretty close to that. I think Detroit's got the number 1 pick. But this team cannot stop the run whatsoever. And they've got this state. So they're going to have to, me personally, in a league that has evolved so much when it comes to schemes, and not necessarily that everybody's an air quote offensive-minded head coach, but even with a team like a Pittsburgh or even here in Tennessee, you're starting to see more exotic schemes in the run game. Everything is just not off left tackle or up the middle. Everything's not just a straight draw. A lot of teams now are using more motion. Okay, they're using more motion. Even the Steelers, another team that's a little dated. You're starting to use more shotgun. You're starting to use more shovel passes, more read option. Not everybody uses read option. I get it. But you're rarely seeing just run the ball up the middle and run left and then throw on third down or throw to the tight end on first down. That is old school pro style stuff. There's just no, you could still do pro style, but you can't just stay in all pro style here in 2022. You have to throw some wrinkles in there. You simply have to throw some wrinkles. Okay, now I'm getting a notification that Kyrie's been suspended 5 games. I'm getting these pop-ups on my screen here. It's kind of working out good for me. But, quite frankly, I know that there's some public relations issues with the former owner who's dead now. I think his son's running the team. Going back to the kneeling and all that, he made some comments about the inmates run the asylum or whatever. That could be looked at as prison or asylum, mental facility or whatever. He made that comment. And, in this racially sensitive environment we're in, and plus the mess of the Bill O'Brien mess and all that. So it looks more like a public relations type of hire. Now, Lovie, he's had a good reputation in Chicago as a head coach, and fired when they had a decent record. They just wasn't getting over the hump. But this stint looks really bad right now. And if this team finishes 1 or 2, and if every game from now, it would be nice if they upset Philadelphia tonight. That would be nice. But if every game looks like the Tennessee Houston game, man, you've got to move on, even after 1 year. And just don't care what people think. Just make the move, do it right. You got rid of some of these people that were hired. They had a like a general manager or somebody. That guy was like a chaplain. He wasn't even a real football guy. They finally got rid of him. They just didn't have a real orthodox stream of chain of command, if that makes any sense. Well, this is what we talked about yesterday, right? When you want to get a new organization, you want to get football people in there running things, okay? not this friend of this friend just because I know this person. Or that's what Jenny Buss does. That's what she's been doing. And look at the Lakers. They're a mess. They're a mess. Get football people to run things. And that's what the Houston Texans are looking like. I mean, they are an absolute dumpster fire. And Pickle says maybe they just don't want to play professionals. You know, they don't want to pay professionals. That's probably what it is. That and you know, it starts in that front office. Poop rolls downhill. That was a name of one of my shows about a year ago when we were talking about all this stuff. So that it really rolls downhill. If it looks this bad at the end of the season and they're worse than Detroit, which they could be, they did beat Jacksonville. And I thought Jacksonville's very premature. They're a very premature team. And quite frankly, and I'm not making this argument today, but here in the next few weeks, I really got to look at the progress of a Trevor Lawrence. He may be a bust too. He's not quite looked as good as I thought he would at this point. I'm not ready to make that call, but this Houston team here, if they just fired everybody and just hit a big bomb and start completely over, you're going to have a lot of draft picks and hire real football people. I wouldn't be mad at them. I wouldn't criticize them one bit because they look like they're a mess still. And quite frankly, they don't look as good as they did last year, you know? And they had another high draft pick, and they're that cornerback, I can't remember his name. The corner they drafted at LSU is pretty good. He's pretty good. And Pickles mentioned Brandon Cooks. Yeah, Brandon Cooks wanted to get traded. He still wants to get traded. He's not even going to play tonight. They're past the trade deadline. They couldn't even do that right because they wanted more than what he's worth. He's bounced around the league like a ping pong ball, like a ball in a pinball machine. Bing, boom, bing, boom, bing. I mean, this guy, so there's some issue with him too. And they didn't want to give up a second round pick for Brandon Cook. Or what they wanted more than a second. They wanted multiple picks, including a second. And the league is like, no, dude. There's some issues with Brandon Cooks, okay? Brandon Cooks has played on like 4 or 5 teams in the last 3 years. I want to say the Patriots. This is off the top of my head. I didn't research that. The Patriots. I want to say the Saints drafted the guy, and then he went to the Rams, and I think this is his 4th team. There may be a team or two missing. Okay, you're not going to get a second-round pick for a player who's been on like 4 teams in 4 years. That's not going to happen because there's something wrong there. There's something wrong there. And so that was another bonehead move. Yeah, I'd give up. If you can get a 3rd and a 4th from this guy, yeah. Because he's inconsistent for one thing. He's very inconsistent. And what I've been telling you guys, these wide receivers are not that they're valuable, but you can find them at a young age and you can get them in the league. George Pickens is a great player. They're just having problems getting in the ball. He's a rookie. He's a great player. A lot of really good second-year players out there playing well, contributing to teams right now. Look at Jamar Chase, second-year guy. Look what he did his rookie year, for crying out loud, right? Now, of course, they're not all like that. I get it. But more often than not, you can feel that with the rookie, and you surround them by a few veterans here. It doesn't have to be. We talked about this on Monday. Some of the lower salary caps for receivers, wise, Kansas City, Buffalo's still down. Even though they're paying Diggs, they're not paying anybody else a lot of money. You see what I'm getting at? But the Cooks, they may cut Cooks. They may cut him or save him to the end of the season. It sounds like they're in a bad situation because he would not pay people. I don't know why he was ran out of. I don't know what that has to do with Houston Texans. Houston Texans are a totally different organization, Pickles. But and of course that may be because they don't want to pay people outside the salary cap. Is that what you're getting at? Yeah. Well, if you're a dumpster fire, you are what you are. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. If you don't want to spend money on personnel people, you're going to continue to be a dumpster fire. That was the whole reason Deshaun Watson wanted out of there, is because they kept hiring people from New England. And they hired one guy who wasn't even a football guy. At some point, and look at the Raiders, by the way. That's a prime example of the whole New England thing, right? I mean, they got Josh McDaniels over there in Vegas. They just got shut out on the road. They got shut out by the Saints with all those, with Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, who ran wild against Houston, by the way, the week before that. Hunter Renfrow, no touchdowns. You get shut out with Derek Carr against the banged-up Saints defense. He may be back in New England as an offensive coordinator. He may get canned. But Houston, I think we have a problem. Now, Houston baseball, man, you guys are interesting. But anyways, if they start making some changes, again, you heard me here before. Was it week 8, week 9 coming up? I'm okay with that. All right, Kyrie. Just popped up on my screen that Kyrie Irving is going to be suspended 5 games. That's breaking news. That's breaking while I'm here doing the program. Let me see what Pickles says. Did not want to play. Vegas was humiliated. Titans got Vince Young. Yeah, Vince Young was a total bust. Speaking of Texas. Yeah, and that what Pickles is saying is he's out of Texas, Bud Adams out of Texas. You never want to do something just because the guy's from your home state. Like we talked about with this owner, this clown. By the way, he looks like he's getting investigated, Daniel Snyder. That's why he's getting. I read something today. That's why he's looking to sell the team. There's a probe that's going to start on him. I read that, but. He drafted Hopkins, or he drafted the guy out of Ohio State. I forgot his name now. The quarterback out of Ohio State, because his son went to school with him. High school with him. Okay, you start investing millions of dollars for a fan base that pays a fortune to get into your facility, okay, a fortune for hot dogs and food, and then 5 hours, a 5-hour ordeal, and you're wanting to take a guy that went to school with your Haskins. Yeah, Dwayne Haskins. You want to get a guy just because he went to high school with your son? Are you kidding me? Are you nuts? But anywho, I digress. All right. So speaking of knuckleheads, I'm kind of on a bad rant today. I'm in a good mood, guys. It's just this frustration. I just read that he's going to be suspended for 5 games. Supposedly, or not supposedly, this is he tweeted out some kind of link or some kind of reference to a Amazon, by the way, an Amazon Prime. Amazon was Amazon in the news, right? Some anti-Semitic type of documentary references. And then he got wise with the reporter when asked about it and got defensive about it. And I do like what Jason Whitlock said about this. He said, how come nobody's coming after Amazon for putting this documentary on their platform, but they want to come after an NBA player? How about you get the big kahuna for it? The guy's just making profit off of it. How about you do that? That's a different discussion. But my point is that it's not this, and I don't condone it either way, but my issue with him is it's always something with, it's simply always something with Kyrie Irving. Sean Sharamia says the commissioner, Adam Silver, statement on Kyrie Irving, I'm disappointed that he has not offered an unqualified apology. I'll be meeting with Kyrie in person next week. And then he said Kyrie made a reckless decision to post a link to a film containing deeply offensive anti-Semitic material We appreciate the fact that he has agreed to work with the Brooklyn Nets and the Anti-Defamation League to combat anti-Semitism, like he was forced to do it, right? And I'm disappointed that he was not offered an unqualified apology and more specifically denounced the violent, harmful content contained in the film he chose to publicize. I will be meeting with Kyrie next week. Okay. So after that was 6 hours ago, and now they decided to suspend Kyrie. Good, Corey. Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm going to use one of your references here. All right. And the thing about Kyrie is it's always something. And respect with me goes a long way. And it's about principle. The principle of this, to me, is this guy went to Duke for a year. He knew that this would cause some kind of negative attention. He's not that ignorant or stupid. He's not stupid. Okay, this is a Nets team who just fired their head coach. This is a Nets team who Kevin Durant wanted out of town. You have a new player who's coming and playing now, Ben Simmons. All right. This is the last thing you need to do is draw attention to yourself or your teammates. This is a lack of respect for your teammates, okay, to bring this kind of energy your way. He's in a contract year. You wouldn't think this is why he hasn't got an extension. It's just a combination of stuff like this that is very disrespectful, you know. But it's just, for instance, last year, you're getting smoked by the Boston Celtics in the playoffs. You actually got swept in the series. And he says, well, I've been fasting for this and that afterwards. So you pick a time in a series. He is so self-absorbed. I guess the word is narcissist, right? He's so self-absorbed that he wasn't conscious enough to not say that I've not been eating and I'm playing in a highly competitive NBA playoff series. But I don't give a two-rip about anybody else but me. It's all about me, and I don't care what you think, and I don't care about anything that my teammates, I don't give two bleeps about them either. You know, I want to play defense. I am doing my fasting. It's nothing to go against his religion or anything with the fasting, but it's just that type of thing with him. You know, he wasn't happy with LeBron. You know, he wins the championship with LeBron. By the way, before LeBron came there, before this guy, they didn't even get to the playoffs, much less. He wasn't even successful as a Russell West, as hard as where I'm on Westbrook. He wasn't even that successful. At least Westbrook had the triple-double record, right? At least he had that. At least Westbrook tried to play defense. So then he gets himself out of town to Cleveland. So then he goes to Boston. And then my friend Corey calls me. He's like, man, this guy totally quit on us, man. I mean, he folds like a cheap suit. He's treating a playoff game like it's nothing. And he's very nonchalant. He's one of the most nonchalant superstars that I've ever seen. Guy's got a lot of talent. He's a person that's always been told yes his whole life. He's went through the AAU, and he's never really been coached hard and been pushed. He's got boatload of talent, and you can tell he's never really been told no. But I understand that. Don't get me wrong. I know there's a level of selfishness all players have. To get that great, there is a level of selfishness, which means you have to concentrate on your craft and do what you have to do to get better. I understand that, but he has taken it to a new level. He's a new level. Remember when so then they had the George Floyd thing, and during 2020, and he didn't want to play. He told the league not to play, and LeBron's like, "No, man, we got to play the games. We'll use the platform and do that. But he didn't want to do that. Then he says, well, in front of Steve Nash, we don't really need coaching. We can coach ourselves. You know, We can simply coach ourselves. It's just, and it's just the principle of the respect of the people around him. That's what I don't like about this guy. Of course, there's his attention whore. He always wants to be the center of attention, and he doesn't care if it harms his coaches, his teammates. Don't care about winning. He's always talking about something other than the game, or more than the basketball. We understand that. We understand that. But why couldn't you have done this in July or August in the off season? Why do you want to do this when you're in the middle of a really bad losing streak? You're trying to break in new teammates. And I'm sure if you asked Kevin Durant or gave him the lie detector test, a big part of it is he's tired of dealing with Kyrie. You know, I didn't give him a hard way to go about the vaccine thing. I thought he had a legitimate point there. But he constantly wants the attention, you know, and he's just unreliable. I would be done with this guy. I would trade this guy. He's got $36 million. This is how I would handle him. Seriously. At this point, I would trade him and take less of a player, not too less, but I would take less of a player. I would buy out a bad contract, and I would send him to Sacramento somewhere or Orlando for a draft pick, or just a decent Buddy Hield or somebody. I don't care. And just anything to make it work. He's 30 or this. I'll tell you what, this is what's going to happen to Kyrie Irving. He's going to be one of those guys about 15 years from now. You're not going to hear anything from him because he's burned so many bridges along the way around the league. He's not as bad as Antonio Brown in the NFL. He don't have the off-field issues that Antonio Brown has had with legal issues. But he's just one of those guys that you're probably going to see an interview in about 10 or 15 years from now, like a Brian Cox. Brian Cox was a really good linebacker, used to play for the New York Jets. Heck of a linebacker. I think one of his sons play in the league now. And about 10 years ago, somebody was asking him about, you know, his play, and he said, man, I was one selfish SOB. And I think that's going to happen to Kyrie. I hope he grows up. But the guy's 30 years old. Yeah. Yeah, he's ripped. Corey says he's traded by his solid. Yeah, he's a cancer. This guy's a cancer. But see, if you're a good GM, you can say, well, man, maybe we can bring him off the bench. I would even consider bringing in a Westbrook or somebody to bring off the bench. He's one of these guys that just he shows up when he wants to. He has no respect for nothing. He doesn't respect anybody. I mean, he has, and you know, I was great Bernie McGirt guy, WABC. He's talking about his time at Catholic school, and they talk about reading, writing, arithmetic. He's like, no, reading, writing, respect. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Respect people's time. Look at things to another set of eyes and see how that falls on people. You know, he just don't have any common. That's part of the culture there. That's why I like the NFL culture better than the Major League Baseball culture, than the NBA culture, because it's more of a team culture and it's more respect for the game. For instance, there's this linebacker, really good. I think his name was Devin White. Devin White, linebacker out of the Tampa Bay Bucks. And this reporter, Greg Auman, was kind of taken up for him in a tweet. And Auman said, hey, listen, I was tired. I got to play better. I appreciate what you're doing. I got to play better. You'll never hear a guy like Kyrie Irving say that. You never, you know, as much as I didn't like Kobe as a player, he always played defense and he always looked like he was serious about the game. And Kyrie's just one of those guys, you know, I would try to work out some type of trade for Kyrie, man. I'm telling you guys. Respect is the bottom line. Reading, writing, respect. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Teams do not want Kyrie on their roster. Kyrie will be out of the NBA. after this. Yeah, and that's a possibility. I wouldn't even bring him to the big three at this point. You know, take the check, Kyrie. What time it is? Works twice as hard as Kyrie. Yeah, he doesn't have self-awareness, Westbrook. But like I said, I don't claim to be a genius, but I just got a little common sense. I noticed the Lakers are playing a little bit better now, right? They by the way, so they beat Denver last weekend, the Lakers, and they're spraying champagne on each other like they won game 7 of the finals. It's like, wow, we got Kyrie to come off the bench and he didn't try to kill everybody, you know? But it's sad to see that these guys are so talented and they just throw it away. You know, they throw it away. And just no respect for nothing, nobody whatsoever. Okay. Man, that was a mouthful. Let's see where to go at next. Okay, this is another story. There's a story out of Michigan State. Now, this was from last weekend. Michigan State, they suspended 4 players. Let me see. Talk about sour grapes and not respectful. They suspended 8 players. All 8 players suspended indefinitely, but no timeline. Excuse me. 8 players from Michigan State were suspended for they played Michigan in college football. A bunch of guys, there's a video, but this happened last Saturday. They just jump on one guy and just beat the crap out of him in the locker room. These guys got cleats on, full pads, and there's this Michigan player, nothing on. And the video, he's not even saying nothing to him. And they just stomped this guy like nobody's business, man. You know? And I want to say that I've got a piece here from Jim Harbaugh on this. They got beat like 29-7. Here's Jim Harbaugh on this that happened over the weekend, last weekend. If it'll play. Of course, it probably won't with my luck, but we shall see.
Sickening to watch the videos. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be a full, thorough, timely investigation. I can't imagine that this will not result in criminal charges. The videos are bad. An apology will not get the job done in this instance. There should be serious consequences for the many individuals that are culpable.
Yeah, I'm surprised he said that much, but I like the fact that I'm one of these iron-fisted guys that I like to make a sample out of somebody and just be done with it so the precedent is set with something like this. There's been a police report filed. These guys have been suspended. We'll see what happens in playing out. My thing is these locker room incidents, it's very simple. You have to have a time lapse between one team going in and another team coming out. And that's part of the problem there. Now, as far as Mel Tucker, the guy at Michigan State, he's a good coach. They went 11-2 last year. They won a lot of games, and they beat Michigan. They beat Michigan last year. They got smoked this year. This year, they're actually 3-5. And he's been there 3 years. This is year 3. And year 2, Tucker kind of reminds me, I'm not ready to say this, but he kind of reminds me of, like I said, not 100%, but kind of reminds me of Charlie Weis. When Charlie Weis, the former offensive coordinator for the Patriots, came to Notre Dame with somebody else's players, took this guy Brady Quinn. They started smoking people. Man, he looked great. And I want to say that was after about a season and a half. He gets this mega 10-year deal. And, man, they fell off like nobody's business. We'll see how this thing plays out. This is more about frustration of how bad this team is. It's a lot of transfers on this team. And they are really, really they've got blown out by Ohio State. They got blown out by Michigan. They got handled against Washington, and we'll see. But that makes me go back to when you get that early success, the lesson learned here, year one and year two, is don't give the extension immediately. Won't you wait till the end of most of these contracts are like 5 years. Most of them are 5 years. And if somebody after year two offers your guy some money, you can always match it. But that's what kills me with these college teams, because people talk about giving Josh Heupel, the guy from Tennessee, all this money, and I'm thinking, okay, Hendon Hooker was a player recruited by the other coach here, Jeremy Pruitt. So you want to, he was already on the team as a transfer, whatever. You want to see the guy get his footing in there. 3-4 years in, towards the end of the contract, when they get to their contract year, then you want to start talking extension. If you want to give them a bonus here and there, that's different. But after year one or year two, give this guy a 10-year deal where you're mortgaging the farm here. I just don't believe in that, But as far as the other stuff, I like messages to be sent. We're in a society today where people's randomly knocking the crap out of people. I talked about with the Devontae Adams. He's tried to be sarcastic the other day, and he's like walking real gingerly around the people. Like, no, dude, we know what you did in the other game. You're on camera from different angles. You clearly saw the guy. You were mad because you lost the last-minute game, and he just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, walking the other direction, and you shoved him down with all that stuff on his hand and really publicly humiliated him. That's us as a society. We put all these athletes on these big pedestals, and they think that they hang the moon. Look at Kyrie. He acts like he could say or do anything. These players that walk up, just knock the crap out of somebody. But yeah, this looked really bad. This looked like a gang beating, man. This looked like something you would see out of the Bloods and Crips or something, man. Just beat somebody down in the middle of the street like this. And I don't think the guy said anything. I didn't hear him say anything. But either way, we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out from a coaching perspective and whatnot. But I thought that was an interesting story. You got to hold off times before each team comes in and out the locker room. That's very simple. And of course, that story's already been talked about. But, hey, I didn't get to it. I did not get to it. Another story here out of the NFL. I didn't get to this one. Speaking of suspended. Okay, a lot of people thought that this next story was an overreaction by the league. We talked about this about 6 months ago. Calvin Ridley, wide receiver from the Atlanta Falcons, was suspended for a year for gambling. You say, well, hey, man, come on. Gambling's legal. Why can't you do that? First of all, he was on a leave of absence in the middle of the season for mental health issues. Calvin Ridley was. So he takes a leave middle of the season for mental health issues, and then he gets, I don't know how he gets found out, but the league proved that he was placing bets on games in the middle of the games, like, players scoring and stuff. And it's just the perception looked really bad. The NFL finds out about it a few months later, and they suspend him for a whole year. And he'll be reinstated next year. Now, Ridley was a first-round pick in 2018 out of Alabama. Okay. And he was just coming into his own, Calvin Ridley, with the Falcons. And then this stuff happens. He said he's, man, I'm depressed and, mental health issues and whatnot. I don't know. That may be another card that people think, mental health thing gets thrown around. When I was living in New York, people were calling out of work because of 9/11. They said 9/11 this and 9/11 that. And it kind of become a thing. My boss was joking on me. He's like, man, now it's coming an excuse for everything, man. Car broke down. What happened? 9/11. Well, 9/11 was 3 or 4 months ago. What are you talking about? But, and he may have really been bummed out and depressed. But So he, like I said, he gets caught gambling. He was doing some online stuff and somehow used his regular name. Genius there. And so he was traded during the traded deadline. He was one of those last minute trades. And I just brought up Trevor Lawrence here. They basically gave this guy away. Now, he's on that 5th-year option. He was traded to Jacksonville for a 5th round in 2023 and a conditional round in 2024 based on compensation. Okay? Now, you say, well, it's a former first-round pick. He's going to be healthy. The problem is he's going to be in its 5th-year option, which means that money's going to go up. But he's got a chance to play with a guy like Trevor Lawrence if Lawrence isn't a bust. Some days Lawrence looks really good, and some days he does not. That's another team that's been very disappointing after their 2-0 start. Jacksonville, they have really hit a slump here, man. They they probably should have won that Giant game the other day, but they're very young. They still have some run defense issues. He hangs on to the ball too long, Trevor Lawrence. But I tell you what, you put him and Christian Kirk, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch there for the Falcons. If they can get it off the ground next year, they're going to have another high pick. You hope that Peterson gets another year there as head coach, but that's an interesting. It could be the steal of steals. It just depends on where Ridley's head is. You know, it depends on where Calvin Ridley's head is. Totally missed that story the other day. I was talking about Bradley Chubb, by the way. Bradley Chubb, we talked about this the other day. He was traded over from Denver, big-time pass rusher, former first-round pick. He just signed a massive extension there with the Miami Dolphins. And like we talked about the other day, Tua, if he can stay healthy, I ain't saying they're going to pass Buffalo this year, but it seems like they're going to have something to build on with him if he can stay healthy. I got one more story to cover, guys, but we'll take a 1:19 break, and I'll come back and I'll get your questions. Just stand by here. Hello, Sports Scope followers. After 5 years of doing this program once a week, balancing a 60-hour work week job, I've decided to do the program 5 days a week, 1 hour a night, taking a significant pay cut. So I've started a Patreon page, which is Patreon, Patreon/SportsScope, spelled the same way at the bottom of the screen you see there, for $5 a month, 17 cents a day. You can help support the program. You ask yourself, why SportsScope? Well, I bring in such big names such as Al Borges, former Auburn offensive coordinator, and I cover the big news in sports that the corporate media will not cover. If you want to contribute more than $5 a month, you can go use the Cash App. The cash tag is SportsScope, again, spelled the same way. Or you can go to the Zelle app, sportscope@gmail.com. SportsScope has about 5,000 followers and growing. If you want to advertise on the program, you can email me. The word is SportsScope, spelled the same way again, @gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. Hey, then I'm back here. I want to go back up. Yeah, so Pickle says, yeah, in the Michigan State, 6 guys to 1 guy, a bunch of punks. Yeah, very punkish things to do. Been there. ETN may be a star. Yeah, and then Chubb got $110 million there. So we'll see what happens. Going back to ETN, will be a star there. Possibly. They did trade away James Robertson. That was the Jacksonville story. We'll see how that plays out. That is one of those remains to be seen. Pete Rose kind of issue. Yeah, the Calvin Ridley. it was more about, like I said it then a few months ago when this first came out, it's more about the optics than it is about the, he only wagered like $1,500. This guy's made millions already. It wasn't like he was trying to rig a game, but optics look bad. It is what it is. Okay, so Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, by the way, if you got, I know a lot of people don't really like TikTok. It might get invaded by China or whatever, but Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he's on TikTok live a lot, and people ask him questions. He bought the XFL, by the way. The XFL is one of these minor league, semi-pro football leagues that the creator of WWF, which is now WWE, the wrestling thing, Vince McMahon, he started it back in 2001 and got off to a really good start, and then it faded after 1 year. Now, it was a documentary about 15, almost 20 years later. It was 20 years later. A documentary about 20 years later, then a new XFL comes out. Okay? Long story short, COVID happens, and then it went bankruptcy. And now The Rock, this wrestler, and another group with him, another guy with him, so they buy it out of bankruptcy for $15 million back in August of 2020. And now that they're going to release this league here, this new league coming up in February next year. And my thing is, now the USFL, a lot of people didn't like it. I thought it was good. I thought it was quick. I know the crowds are small. That looks kind of bad on TV because they were all played in Birmingham in the same place. But the USFL that was relaunched back in April, I thought it was good. I really did. I thought it was good. I thought it looked better than the XFL. I thought it looked better than the Arena League. I thought it looked better than the NFL Europe. I just thought it looked really good. And I think that it could possibly work. Then this league is going to start in February, which I think that there's some misnomer that since the Super Bowl has such good ratings, how about we use this? Well, it doesn't work that way. People kind of burn out on football at that time. And this XFL went out of business. The AAF went out of business. Another one that started in around that 2019 or something like that. I think that people are starting to make the same mistakes over and over again. For order for these leagues to work, we know about the TV contracts and all that stuff. USFL, I think Fox owns USFL, which helps, right? And I think they also have some kind of deal with NBC. Kind of weird. Some games are on one station, some games are on another one. But my thing is, you have to have a long game approach with these type of leagues, and it's like they don't do the math right on what it's going to cost because they keep going belly up. You have to have a long game approach, and you have to make sure you've got your money set up right. You have to have your money set up right where you know that we're going to lose X amount in year one, X amount in year two, X amount in year three, and by year 5, maybe you're close to a profit. You might not make a profit till year 7 or 8, but we have to get people, mind, body, and spirit used to having appointment TV. And I don't understand why these people that form these leagues realize that. You have to be stable and at a place at a certain time. That's one thing I like about Ice Cube in the Big 3 League. For the most part, Saturday and Sunday at around noon to 4 CBS in the middle of the summer, July sometime, you're going to see about 3 games in one arena. That's it. They're still a little bit off there. They have some games on other channels, but mainly it's on CBS, and it's starting to grow. They've had some financial issues, but that's what you have to have appointment TV. The coaching was really good in the USFL. I don't think it'll be that bad in the XFL, but my guess is this will probably fall through. And I think the USFL, the relaunch, because they're going to be overlapping with each other, and people just don't get it. American Football League, Pickles, that must have been back in the day, makes Lamar Hunt look like a genius. Yeah, those guys, it does. Because essentially, the NFL is the only professional league that's worked. I don't think it's because they got it out. I think the fact that they knew how to do it, they got it set up at the right time and the right time of day, and they made it a point. You're supposed to make it appointment TV. Appointment TV. You're not late. You're always on time. You have quality football. And everything is, the time is set up perfectly between the commercial breaks. There's no downtime. You're not switching it on different channels this week and different channels that week. At noon Central, the second week of September, there's going to be football in America. There's going to be NFL. That just don't mess up. And that's why, and I think that's one of the main reasons why they're successful. Okay? If you guys like the show, share the show. I got another hour. I thought I was going to be less of material today. But hey, you know what? Between the listeners here, the feedback, your Pickles of the world, your Corys of the world, you're helping me out here. Because I'm just not going to ask people to come on every week and then they not really want to come on. They want to, and you know, they're busy and I'm not going to bother with them. That was my whole thing about this program. It's going to be about me. And quite frankly, some of my most favorite people that I've emulated for talk radio and whatever, they're solo folks anyways. People, whether you love Rush Limbaugh or hate Rush Limbaugh, he didn't have a bunch of guests on all the time. He had a story, and then his callers would call in, and he had immediate sound bites for those callers. Immediate sound bites for the story. I just don't. I'm not going to beg people to come on. This Mike Westhoff guy, his assistant here is she's poo-pooing me because I'm a podcaster, even though he friended me and he wanted me to talk to him. I'm going to get back with Mike. I'm not burning that bridge. I'm not pulling Kyrie, burning that bridge. But I'm just telling you, I don't need anybody on this program. And I've shown this week and week after week, and I'm proving it to you all and I'm proving it to myself that I can still go off the topics. And you guys, the callers, we can feedback with you. Quite frankly, last week, I want to thank listener here sent me, tip some money there with the cash out, and I really appreciate that, guys. So tomorrow, now we'll have a guest on tomorrow. Carlos is pretty good. He's pretty good about coming in, Mad New Yorker. We're going to break down Tennessee, Georgia, the biggest freaking game of the year. Number 1 and number 2. We're going to talk about that. Maybe talk a little bit of Kansas City, Tennessee. You hope, if you're a Tennessee Titans fan, that Ryan Tannehill practices Friday, because if it's Malik Willis, it's going to be a total disaster. It's going to be a disaster. But they play on Sunday Night Football. That'll be a big game. We'll go over 5 biggest games, and of course, we'll do the big kahuna in college football. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Same place, same time here on Sports Scope.